McCarthy Insurance Group, serving the community for over 70 years. For home, farm, motor, life, health and business insurance, log on to mig.ie or free phone 1800 50 11 11. Probably your best call in 2024. Charles McCarthy Insurance is trading as McCarthy Insurance Group, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Real people, real opinions.
Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.
Now, you may remember a case last month where a woman in the UK was jailed for terminating her pregnancy after a legal time limit, and that was Carla Foster, who is now 45 and a mother of 3, and she received abortion medication in the post during the COVID pandemic. The pills were legal for unwanted pregnancies up to 10 weeks after remote consultation. However, after post-mortem on the fetus, it was revealed that the unborn baby, or the fetus, was 32 to 34 weeks gestation period, well capable of independent life if indeed it had been born in the right environment. Now, in England, Scotland and Wales, abortion is generally legal up to 24 weeks, but is carried out in hospital or a clinic after 10 weeks. Anyway, Mr. Justice Pepperell sentenced Foster last month to 28 months in prison. Now, he could have sent her to jail for a lot longer, but he also could have given a suspended sentence too, and said that she would serve half her term in prison and the rest on licence after her release. Now, this resulted in a massive public outcry. We had pro-choice advocates calling the judge sexist on the air when we spoke about it. And we even had pro-life advocates saying prison was not the answer. Of course, we had others saying it was absolutely the answer, of course, those who were pro-life. Foster, of course, appealed the decision, and today in London, 3 judges reduced her prison sentence. Dame Victoria Sharp said, "This is a very sad case. It is a case that calls for compassion and not punishment. She will now be released from prison and reunited with her children. And I want to know what you think about that. Let us know. The number, as usual, 087 188 0008. That's 087 188 0008. So what do you think of the fact that she's been released? Now, when we asked you last month, it was kind of 50-50 of those who believed she should have gone to prison at all. But before we get your views, I wanted to hear from someone in the UK, and Boyd Slater is the Northern Ireland coordinator of the Humanists UK. They're an organisation that brings non-religious people together to develop their own views and understanding of the world around them. And abortion is an issue that is very important to them. And welcome to the show, Boyd.
Hi there.
Boyd, it's one of those cases where I don't really know what the right answer is. Clearly a law has been broken, whether you like the law or not, a law has been broken. She knew she was breaking the law because the police, of course, testified that she went online on Google to see if that was the law or not. So she was well aware she was breaking the law. And also she didn't put in an early guilty plea, and this all went against her in the original case. But of course, we did see the national outcry in relation to it. So I am assuming that you're celebrating, Boyd, or are you celebrating?
Well, celebrating, I mean, it's an awful thing that's happened in the first place. You know, there's nothing celebratory about this in any way. And, you know, this individual has been prosecuted, using a bit of legislation from 1861. That's like prior to when electricity was invented. So, you know, we really do need to have a conversation and legislative change when it comes to this in the rest of the UK. I'm based in Northern Ireland, where we saw the legislation change, and it basically pushes it to decriminalisation. And this really is and should be treated as a medical or a health issue, not a criminal justice issue.
When you say a medical or health issue, people will argue with you and say, well, yes, I consider it a medical and health issue if the woman's life is in danger medically. In other words, if she was in hospital and she was receiving treatment or an operation whereby, you know, the fetus would have to be removed for pregnancy, would have to be terminated to save her life, and people would call that a medical or health emergency. This was just, she didn't want to have a baby at that particular time because she was struggling with her own mental health. So that wouldn't really be fair to call it a medical condition.
You just said there she was struggling with her mental health.
Well, we could all argue that, in fairness, Boyd. That's
exactly what this is. This was an incredibly difficult decision for this woman to make at the time and place that she was in.
I assume abortion is always a difficult decision to make.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yes.
And this was during the first lockdown of the pandemic. There were other factors involved in it. The judges even said very clearly, you know, that this was what happened here is a very unfortunate set of circumstances. But again, this should never have happened. This is a mother of three children who should have never ended up in the prison system. She should have been treated with dignity and should have been going through a medical and health system. And hopefully there will be changes now, because this is happening more and more often. There are, I believe, 4 women have been convicted in the last 2 years around this. And there's something like another 60-odd prosecutions that have happened in the last 10 years. So this is really just not good.
In the original case last month, Justice Pepperall said, and I'm going to quote, he said, "This case concerns one woman's tragic and unlawful decision to obtain a late-term abortion. In my judgment, your culpability was very high because you knew full well your pregnancy was beyond the 24 weeks and you deliberately lied to gain access to telemedical services. I accept that you feel very deep and genuine remorse for your actions. You're racked with guilt and have suffered depression. I also accept that you had very deep emotional attachment to your unborn child, and that you were plagued by nightmares and flashbacks to seeing your dead child's face." He added that if the woman had pleaded guilty at the earliest opportunity at a magistrate's court, the custodial sentence could have been suspended. So there were a lot of mitigating factors. And I understand bad laws are made to be broken. And that's a very old cliche, I know, I understand. And most of the legislation, as you rightly said, both in Ireland and in the UK, dates back to the 18th century. It's just been changed every now and again. It all dates back originally to a long, long time ago, before electricity. But when you say bad laws are made to be broken, that doesn't mean we break them. If we break them knowing that we're breaking the law, even though we believe it's a bad law, the judge doesn't have a choice. You know, the judge was called sexist at the time he made these comments and at the time he passed down this sentence. But the judge doesn't really have a choice. They can only implement the instrument of the law.
That might be well and true for the judge to be put in that position and have to make a ruling on it at that stage. Different judges may rule in different ways. The judge in the appeals court has made way more comments in terms of how they had felt about the process and what had happened. But the simple fact is that it should never have got in front of a judge in the first place. This woman should have been able to contact her health professionals, and there should have been a conversation between her and a physician.
But she did contact them, but she lied to them. She did contact the BPAS.
In order to get that medication. But ultimately, at that time, she was in a position where if she went through with what she was going to do, she was going to end up in the legal system. She was doing her best to stay away from the legal system in a very, very tricky situation, and she'd never have had to have that dilemma in the first place.
But why? But if she didn't want the baby, and if she wanted a termination of pregnancy, why didn't she do that within the time limit? That's the question, or even within the 24 weeks.
I don't have the answer to that question. All I know is what I've read here, the same as yourself, that this was during the pandemic. There were other mitigating factors that amounted to the situation being where it was, and this woman making the decision that she made. And so that's where we are. One way or the other, we're talking about one very extreme case here, but this affects women right across the board. So this needs to be addressed and should be.
Okay, so how do we address this going forward to stop this from happening? Because the idea of decriminalisation of abortion, that can mean a lot of things, by the way. And nobody wants to see people going to jail, particularly a mother of 3 children, for making a bad decision. But in saying that, if we decriminalise abortion, that means that realistically, going to the extreme, a woman could literally have an abortion a week before she's due to give birth. That's unacceptable, isn't it? Morally, apart from anything else. Surely that's unacceptable.
It's actually highly unlikely.
It is highly unlikely, but it is possible and it has happened. But surely that should be unacceptable.
But no. Wait a minute. It would be acceptable if there was life-threatening situations in a woman, and that would be the only way to find that out is for a doctor, a physician, and that individual to be able to access the proper with her doctors. So you might find that there is a situation where you get to past that current cutoff of 24 weeks where there is a life-threatening implication and something has to be done. Currently, you have to go through the courts in order for something to be done, which means there's a longer time and a longer process for that person to get treatment. This should just be a conversation between health professionals, physicians, and women, pregnant people.
But in saying that, do we accept, or do we all accept, that an unborn baby at 24 weeks can or is capable of independent life? and is more or less a fully formed baby, because they can live in an incubator, obviously, and continue life and be born perfectly healthy. So if we accept that, surely from a moral standpoint, and you don't have to be religious, by the way, because I'm not religious, Boyd, I don't even believe in God. So you don't have to be religious to believe that morally we have a duty and we should have a respect for human life.
Yeah, of course we should have a respect for human life, and we should have a respect for the dignity of individuals who are pregnant as well.
But that's not what I'm asking you. I'm talking about the unborn child for the moment. I'll come back to the mother in a second and their rights.
As I said earlier, I mean, what we find right now is the vast majority of abortions take place before 12 weeks. And then once you hit 12 weeks plus, what you tend to find is a lot of those women actually want to have those children, but due to complications, they have to go for an abortion. Once you get up to that 24-week stage, the amount of women who are seeking abortions or looking them for because they don't.
It's very limited. Yes,
very, very few.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more. But that tends to be the way with most laws. I could bring it down to the basics. We have laws for speeding. Most people don't speed. Most people don't travel over 120 kilometres an hour on a motorway. But some people will take a chance and do it, and that's why we have a law. So the point that I'm trying to make is, would you want to
conflate speeding offences?
No. I know. I'm using the analogy of why we have laws, and I'm sure you're well aware of that. So, I mean, do we have to have a law at all? Do you believe there should be no laws at all around termination of pregnancy?
No, what we believe is that this should be put into a health situation. So there may be conversations around about what sort of time limits women should sort of think about, and that again can be a health conversation. It can be a conversation with women, their doctors. This is a health and reproductive care conversation. And that's what we need it to be, not a conversation about justice and whether we should be telling women what they should do with their own bodies. But
Boyd, I agree with you, and I do care about women's health. I genuinely do. And on this show, on many occasions, we've talked about abortion and terminations, and we've talked about women's health care, etc. We're probably the only ones that cover the likes of menopause and all those things so often, and we do. But what I'm saying to you is, I still believe that there has to be some criminal element when people make decisions around an unborn baby. I'm not talking about 12 weeks. I'm not talking about 24 weeks. I'm talking about 35 or 36 weeks or 40 weeks. Where does that stop?
Yeah, well, right now, what you have is a situation where, even right now, if a woman wants to go and have an abortion, she has to have that conversation with a physician, and the physician has to make a decision whether they want to do it as well. There is actually two people in this conversation. It's the woman and the medical practitioner, and those two people have to make a decision whether they go forward with it. If a doctor turns around to somebody and says, at 30 weeks, we do not believe what you're doing here is right, and, we don't believe that should happen. A number of doctors say that. A number of professionals say that. And some has an abortion, a backstreet abortion, then there may have to be a conversation around that. But what we want to do is provide people care so they don't end up in that situation.
So what you are willing to say that if a woman has an abortion without the proper supervision or medical care, in other words, if a doctor doesn't recommend it or her life is not in danger and she has an abortion at 35 weeks, there should be a criminal aspect to that?
No, I think it has to be still a conversation.
Would you stop, Boyd? There has to be some compromise. We can't just have a situation where it's just a free-for-all. We're talking about, it depends on what you consider a life, but there is a human being inside of that woman as well. There are two people to consider once we get past that 24-week point of independent life. There's two people to consider.
And wait a second, when we're talking about personhood under UK law, people don't have personhood until they're born. There's a difference between an actual life and a potential life.
You think so? I mean, can I ask you an honest question? I don't mean to be personal, by the way, and if I am, please tell me, right? But do you have children yourself?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember when your partner was pregnant?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember when she got her scans and the excitement?
Yes, I do.
Did you refer to it as a baby or a fetus?
I thought that I was supporting my partner with the decisions that she was making at that time.
Okay, but you still said we're expecting a baby. We're having a baby. It's a person. I mean, I see women all the time on Facebook putting pictures of my new baby's coming into the world very soon, and they treat it as a person.
Right, okay. That's entirely up to them. But what I'm saying is the rights of unborn children do not trump the rights of actual people with actual rights. There's a difference between potential rights and actual rights. The woman has actual rights. The child only has potential rights. We treat women and people who are pregnant with dignity. We treat them with respect. We allow them to access healthcare properly. This isn't what has happened in this case.
And the unborn baby that would be over 24 weeks old, do they also deserve an element of respect in law? I understand the Supreme Court in Ireland, similar to the UK, said that the unborn baby has no rights. But do we believe morally they deserve rights or respect?
Do have the rights. They have rights which are an extension of the mother's rights. And that's a very important thing as well. They do have the mother's rights. So that is in place, but their rights do not trump that of the mother's.
I'm looking here, and you mentioned there's probably many more prosecutions on the way. There was one very famous one about 7 or 8 years ago as well, where a woman went to jail for a considerable period of time. Although she did get her sentence reduced as well in that particular case. Now, this woman didn't get her sentence just reduced. It was suspended completely, and she was released from jail. I believe she's being released today. Is it tonight? Was she released, Boyd?
I believe it was today, yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was today, and she's back with her children. And by the way, I'm happy that she's back with her children, because I think that's where a mother deserves to be. But in saying that, I also believe that the law is the law, and we have to obey the laws. I understand bad laws, again, are made to be broken, and I do get that. And I do understand this law is very old and certainly needs updating or looking at. But, I mean, do you believe it should be that way here in Ireland as well, and Northern Ireland, as well as the UK? Do you believe all the criminal aspect? In other words, at this current moment in time, over 12 weeks, if a doctor performs an abortion in the Republic of Ireland without I suppose, getting a second opinion and third opinion in relation to a woman's particular situation, they can face criminality up to 14 years in jail. Do you believe that should be all removed?
Yes, I would definitely say that those sort of things should be removed. When it comes to healthcare, we don't want to put sort of criminal sanctions on people. We saw that in Northern Ireland and what happened. Northern Ireland's sort of criminal sanctions heightened, and less women over the years were able to access abortion, even when they were rightfully allowed to do so, because of the fear that drove into doctors and nurses and the medical professionals. You don't drive healthcare through fear. You don't drive people's motivations to seek out healthcare through fear either. This is not the way we should be operating in the 21st century with laws from 91 or something, or 1861.
What about in Ireland currently at the moment? I'm sure you may be familiar, obviously, with the campaigns in Ireland currently to get abortion laws amended. The 3 main aspects of that would be the time limit, obviously, of 12 weeks to be extended to 24, or further than that to remove criminality completely. The second aspect would be the 3-day cooling off period, and the third aspect is conscientious objection. Do you believe they all should be removed?
Let me see, because I don't know these.
Okay, well, let's see with them one by one. Conscientious objection. Stephen Donnelly, the Health Minister in Ireland, has said that he's very disappointed that healthcare or abortion, termination of pregnancy, is not available in most hospitals in Ireland because there are doctors who conscientiously object on, be it moral grounds or religious grounds, to performing terminations. Do you believe that if a doctor is working in a hospital and they're in that department, that they must perform the termination and they can't conscientiously object?
Well, I think hospitals should have reproductive health care centres or units where doctors who want to work within that field can work in that field. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other right now whether I think conscientious objection is right or wrong in this instance. I think women need access to health care.
Should GPs be allowed to refuse to see women or to advise women in relation to, getting the medication that they need, for a termination? Should they be able to refuse on conscientious objection, grounds of conscientious objection?
GPs are there to serve the community, and they're general practitioners, as you well know, and if a woman comes in and asks for that support, they should be directed to the best possible care to give them that support. They should never be saying, I'm not giving that information to my patient. That is wrong, in my opinion.
Okay, and the other aspect, of course, is the 3-day cooling off period. In Ireland, if a woman wants a termination, she must go to a GP or whoever it is, or her local health centre, and she must register, and 3 days later she can come back with an appointment and she can get the care she needs. But the 3 days are a cooling off period. The evidence shows in the last 4 years since we've had abortion that up to nearly 4,000 women have not come back for the second appointment, i.e. they possibly have lost the baby, they possibly weren't pregnant, or they changed their mind. Do you think the 3-day cooling off period should be abandoned?
I would say a 3-day cooling off period sounds a bit strange to me. I mean, there could be 101 reasons why women don't come back, and that could be also intimidation by family, parents, coercive sort of control. There could be a number of reasons why that is, and people should be addressed as and when they come up for attention for something. I mean, all you're doing is extending the time that somebody is pregnant as well, without being able to access the treatment that they might well want to access. So I would argue that, a cooling off period is probably not a good thing. And also the extension, I think that was the first one that you said, from 12 to 24 weeks. I mean, yes, that would be an obvious one, or a decriminalisation stance.
Okay, well, listen, it's been interesting talking to you, and I know people are going to call us in now with many different views, be they pro-choice or pro-life, but I do appreciate you joining us on the air, and thank you very much indeed, Boyd Slater, who's speaking to us from Belfast. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There you go. That's Boyd Slater, and Boyd is from the the Humanist Association. I had it here on my script there a minute ago. I do apologise. Yes, Boyd is the Northern Ireland coordinator of the Humanists UK. They're an organisation that brings non-religious people together to develop their own views and understanding of the world around them, and the abortion issue, I suppose, is very important to them. Now, getting back to what we were talking about, I want to know what you think. There are many people who believe she shouldn't have been sent to jail. I want to know what you think. Do you believe she should have been sent to jail? Now, the judge is perfectly within his right to send her to jail because that's the law. That's the law currently in Ireland, by the way, as well. If a woman had an abortion at 36 weeks in this country, knowing that she was breaking the law, she would go to jail. That is the law. You can go to jail for up to 14 years if you're a doctor and you perform an abortion past the 12-week period. Unless, of course, it's the woman's life is in danger, or it's fetal abnormality and the second opinion is got. But do you believe we should bring in decriminalisation? So decriminalisation essentially means there would be no criminal aspect whatsoever. So in other words, in extreme cases, I'm not saying it would happen. I would like to think the majority of women are far more intelligent than that. In the extreme cases, that if a woman decided she wanted an abortion at 40 weeks, she could, if she could manage to find somebody to do it for her, and there would be no criminal aspect to it whatsoever. Do you believe the criminality should be removed from abortion completely? Which would have to be the case if you were to allow situations like we've just had in England, where a woman has been released from jail by judges on appeal because they believe she shouldn't have been jailed in the first place because the law was very old. Let me know what you think. The law is the law, isn't it? Let me know what you think. The number is 087 188 0008. That's 087 188 0008. Let me go to Jimmy. Jimmy, hi, how are you?
How are you, Niall?
Jimmy, look, it's a complicated case. It is complicated.
Look, it's like saying you're on the fence. Okay, it's a big, wide fence, right? But it's going on now, like this. And it should be put to bed years ago. And I think myself personally, take the law out of it. And I think myself personally, the biggest prison or sentence that can be got out of having an abortion is if the woman made the wrong decision.
Yeah. Then
she has it for the rest of her life. And whether she gets whoever finger pointed at her or not, like, she could look really happy for the rest of her life, you know what I mean? Like, and that is the biggest sentence, like. And see, look, as soon as we're born, our parents go off and make us straw men, you know what I mean? And like, that's when our life gets sort of, I don't know. Sometimes you're fucking better off not being more. No, I think it should not be a crime for a woman to make that decision. And I know I'm a man. I'm sorry, girls, if I have no right of saying anything about this, but I really feel.
No, you do have a right, because women can't get pregnant without men. Well, I suppose they can when it's insemination.
Oh, they can, sure they can.
I suppose. But in saying that, so you believe there should be no criminal element to it all. So do you believe that a baby, or should I say, a 25 weeks pregnancy, do you think that's a baby, or do you just think it's a clump of cells?
I was delighted to hear your last caller, because I could save you time here. I agree with almost everything you said, because I can't. Yeah, everything you said I agree with. Especially, it's down to the woman. It's nothing to do with the government. What's inside that person? That's between him. That's between the man. And okay, if the man is involved, right? Yeah, no problem. But if say the man is gone or whatever, or the two of them are happy campers. Well, they're the ones that are making the decision, because...
is that not just a free-for-all? Is that just not a free-for-all?
No, she's the custodian. She's the keeper. It's her. She's the keeper. There's no other keeper. She's the keeper. And then he's along...
So is it a baby? Is it at 25 weeks, let's say, for example? Is it a baby?
Yeah, but like... You see,
you're not answering my question. You stop avoiding the question. Is it a baby, yes or no?
Well, look, I suppose, yes, it is, but yes, but she has the right.
So she's the right to terminate
she
a baby.
has the right. Yeah, she has the right. She has the right. But
that sounds like a weird. That's it's kind of odd, isn't it? You have a better chance of winning the lotto, I reckon. I reckon you have a better chance of winning the lotto than getting a lady to do that, like. No, you're probably right, by the way, because there is very few situations like that.
So therefore, see, Niall, what's gone in all society is like, you need to have a license to go have a shit in the morning, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you can't have it, you didn't have a license.
There's a big difference in some of the more kind of salacious things that we talk about to this. This is quite a serious issue, in relation to pregnancy.
It's a moral issue.
Well, no,
end of story.
It's not just a moral issue. No,
it's none of your business, though. But it's none of your business.
Well, let's just move away from abortion for a second. If I kill somebody tomorrow, if I kill a member of my family tomorrow, is it any of your business?
What to do on you?
What? But is it anything? Of course, it's none of your personal business, Jimmy. But it is the state's business because it's illegal.
No, the waters haven't broke. The waters haven't broke.
That line is bad.
Yes, we should look at it.
Come back to Joanna a second.
I'll go put the kettle on and get a new line, right?
Yeah, well, we'll stay there for a second. Let me just go to Jason as well. Well, stay there. Stay there, Jimmy. Jason, hi, how are you? You're on our Classic Hits Radio. How are you doing?
Good evening, Miles.
Jason, Jimmy believes it's nobody's business except the woman who does it.
Isn't it? No. My son was born at 27 weeks.
Yeah, well...
You know that. I remember that I was telling you 3 years ago.
That's right, yeah.
I was sleeping outside the hospital in my truck with the pandemic had only hit.
Yeah.
He's running around there now like a head case. Doesn't talk. Has a few little sensory issues. But Jesus, could you just imagine that?
Yeah.
Can I ask that gentleman, or anybody, okay, it's a woman's choice, but when does it stop being the woman's choice and that's a baby inside her? Do you believe in abortions at 38 weeks?
Well,
39 weeks? And
Jimmy can answer that.
Yeah. And no, that's for that case in England. There's a lot to that. I'm out in England all the time, as you know, as a truck driver. I listen to a certain station out there. That woman came back to her estranged husband pregnant from another man at the start of the pandemic. There's a lot more to that story.
There is. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, she had two kids already for this fella, and so there is a lot more to that. So I'm not going to base what happened over there. The judge who sentenced her was a male, and the judge who they held up the appeal was a female.
Yeah.
You know, so let's not use that. I'm just going back to general terms. There has to be a cut-off stage. There really, really does.
Jimmy doesn't believe there should be a cut-off point at all. He believes, as far as it's concerned, it's none of your business.
So as long as, without being rude and crude, as long as what is attached by the umbilical cord, it's still,
is that the rule, Jimmy? As long as it's attached by an umbilical cord, it's not nobody's business.
What? Yeah, but it is though. It is that soul. That baby.
Is that a world you want to live in, Jimmy? Sorry, Jimmy. Is that really a world you want to live in? That we can take perfectly healthy babies and just kill them just because a woman doesn't want them.
No, you see. No. Sorry. The line is bad, right? And it's kind of rattling in my ear a bit. But no. You see, you can say the extremes about whatever you like, but. Look at a woman.
Jimmy, what's your cut off? Jimmy, can I ask you, Jimmy, what's your cut off then? What is your cut off? When do you think it's acceptable or unacceptable to end the life of a fetus? And I'm going to call it a fetus because there's people jumping up and down saying it's not a baby, it's a clump of cells, it's a fetus, it's this, that, and the other. Okay, let's use the word fetus. Is it when it changes from fetus to human, i.e. when it has 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, a heart, lungs, the whole lot? I mean, you can see that at 26, 27 weeks. Is it okay to abort that?
Well, you see, the thing about it's not about the days. It's about rights. It's about the right of that. No. I didn't interrupt you. I never interrupted you.
Okay. Well, what about the right? What about the right of that child? If that child is left alone, that child will grow into a child and will grow into a human being. It's like a cake you put in an oven. If you just put a lump of dough in an oven and turn it on and leave it there, it'll turn into a cake.
Yeah. Well, look, I just hear me out for a second, right? Yeah. I think that it's about the woman. That woman is a sole guardian of this baby, or God forbid, twins. But it's down to her. It's not down to any table of wherever barristers or doctors or whatever.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that.
But no, but that's what I'm talking about, because that's what we are talking about. We are talking about putting
I'm talking about the cut-off. Yeah, okay, so what's the cut-off?
He just told you he has no cut-off point.
I don't have a cut-off, you see. I mean, with me, for a woman, there's no cut-off because it's none of my business.
Jimmy, if a woman had a baby in a hospital, right, and when the baby is born but still attached to it and then decides she doesn't have it, should she have the legal right to kill that child? Now, it's still attached to her by the umbilical cord. It's literally just been a couple of seconds old. Is that how far you're willing to go?
You can draw scenarios. You can pull scenarios out of the sky or whatever.
I'm just asking you. Is that how far you're willing to go? I mean, what about a woman that goes over? Okay, what about a woman that goes over at 42 weeks and then she has the baby? So she's gone over what we'd call is the normal gestation period. So if she goes to 42 weeks, that's a fully developed human being, but it's still attached by an umbilical cord. Is it okay to do it then?
She's gone over because your baby wasn't ready to come out. Loads of women go over and have nice babies. Like.
So is it okay then to end the life of that baby because that woman doesn't want it?
No, it's not. I'm not saying it's none of my business. Okay? It's none of my business.
Well, it is your business. You live in society. It's society's business. Of course it is. It's everybody. It's everybody's business. That's why we have laws.
You know, but
no, hang on. You can't just keep saying it's none of my business. That's not a get-out clause. It is your business.
No, it is.
And if it's not your business, well, then don't bother going to vote in the next election. If it's not your business. Do you know what I mean? That's a weird get-out clause. It's not my business. It is your business. Because everything that happens in this country is your business.
Okay,
and if you don't want it to be your business, that's fine. Just don't vote in the next election. That's fine.
Okay, 1 second. Okay. We speak it back there for a second, right?
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't be talking to you now if I didn't feel some way of my business, like you know what I mean.
Of course, yeah.
I have something to say about it, and what I have to say about it basically is that it should be. It's painted as a really, really, really horrible thing and all this, right?
What, abortion?
And it's painted like.
Well, it is. They're ending the life of somebody.
But for the wrong reasons.
But whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, I would imagine the majority of people believe morally abortion is not a nice thing.
Sorry, Niall.
It's not something we should celebrate, really, is it?
Sorry, Niall.
Yeah, Jason.
Sorry, Niall. Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I am pro-life, yeah? I really am. You know I've a lot of kids. But I'm at a stage where, okay, there is certain circumstances, okay?
Yeah.
And okay, I'm a purpose, but there has to be a cut-off point. I'm sorry, there just has to be.
Well, some people's eyes. I mean, there's groups at the moment in this country campaigning for decriminalisation.
Literally, abortion right up to
the day of the birth. Yeah.
Yes, there has to be a cut-off. I mean, I'm prepared to not weaken me stand in a sense, but okay, there is. As a man of 5 daughters, I'd hate to think one of them was in that situation. I'd hate to think I'd have the answers. I'd like to think I have the answers if they ask me. But my stance is, I'm pro-life. No matter what, baby, I look after, blah, blah, blah. But it is her choice at the end of the day. But then there has to be that cut-off. There just has to be where we say, okay, it is a clump of cells. It is.
Well, hang on. Jimmy is relenting here. So you're saying there is a cut-off, Jimmy, now?
Yeah, Jimmy.
No, like I'm talking.
No. Hang on, Jason. Hang on. He said, he agreed with you.
Maybe if I finish this, you'll understand where I'm coming from. As a father of 8 kids, I had my first one back in the 90s. I had my last one 3 years ago. This was the hardest one because he was so small. He was so premature. He's the strongest. You know what I mean? We gave him a chance. Like we had a chance. We could have, because of my partner's previous pregnancy. She was told never to have another one, but we did because we wanted that.
Yeah,
we gave him the chance, and you should see him now.
Yeah.
Okay,
so Jimmy, just explain what you were going to say there when you said you kind of agreed there a little bit. You said yes.
Yeah, well, you see, yes.
So where's the cutoff?
No, you see, just because I don't agree with something doesn't mean it can't be done or shouldn't be done. Or just because I agree with something, that doesn't mean it should be done. But yeah, morally, yes, a woman should be kind of able to say to herself, whatever thoughts I had months ago or whatever, say if her thoughts came back or something like that, and they came back like late in the pregnancy and all this, and she's going, oh shit, or whatever, blah, 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 and having sleepless nights or whatever, and then she might, you see, we'd like to think as men, because as men, mostly men I hear talking about this topic, but we think
we have a voice, Jimmy. We have got a voice.
Hang on. Let me just bring in a female voice then, just for the sake of balance. Hang on, both of you. Hang on, stay there. Joanna.
Yes,
Hi,
Joanna.
Niall. How are you?
How you doing? Joanna, okay, getting back to the original case of this woman that went to jail and now has been released after only serving about 20 days in jail.
No, I think absolutely shaming her. She knew what she was doing. And I'll tell you something else.
She did, yeah. She knew. She Googled it before she did it.
Yeah, 100%. And you see this 3-month grace period, or
3 days.
3 days.
Or 3 days, sorry. Apologies. And yeah, I think.
Oh, well, leave that aside just for the moment. That's not really that. It's not the biggest issue. I'm asking you, should there be a cut-off point?
Story. My baby was born. I was attacked when I was 8 months pregnant, and I gave birth early. Now my son we already knew that he had special needs. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, look.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. But they told me in the return that you know the way you get a 12-week scan, then you get a 20-week scan. Well, I was brought back for scans every week because they knew there was something
wrong.
with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they set me in this lovely little sitting room. It looked gorgeous, all lit up, homely, all that. Not like a hospital setting whatsoever. That's how you know things are bad, you know. And they said to me, your son mightn't survive. Your son might never be able to sit up, feed himself, blah, blah, blah. All the worst scenarios you can possibly get. And I had that test you get for the Down syndrome and all that.
Mitra is something Mitris. Well, I can't remember.
It's something where they put a needle inside
I'm trying to remember that. That's right, yeah.
And they take from the fluid, the amniotic fluid from the wound.
Yeah.
And I just, I sat there, I cried, and I just said, you know what? I don't care. This is my baby. I'm going to keep him whatever day he comes back to me, and he's my baby, and I'm going to keep him. And you know, they couldn't encourage me enough to actually get rid of him. And there was
fair play to you. Fair play to you. That must have been the hardest decision of your life.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was easy. He was part of me, and I was going to take him. Whatever. It wasn't hard at all. I said, look, if this is my destiny, he's my child. And I will love him like I love the rest. And you know what? You said something there. Is your name Jimmy?
Jason.
You know, you said something there. And they're the strongest out of all of my 3 children. I've got 4 altogether. And he is the strongest and the most willingest child ever.
Yeah, that's him. He's in front of me right now. Yeah.
He just feels like, this is not beating me. And he doesn't, it's not even that. It's just like, it's like he has a sick sense or something. You know,
you have to have a cut-off point, don't you know? I'm sorry, but no, I don't mean to be cruel, but we're one of the only species. I think we're the only species on the planet that will abort a healthy fetus. I don't think there's another species on the planet that will do that.
No, well, other animals in the animal kingdom, they do kill their own young if they feel they're too weak to survive, or if they feel they're too weak to provide for them. And that's quite common in the animal kingdom. Now, I don't want to bring it down to basics, but we're more. Let's be clear about this. You know, we're meant to be more intelligent than that.
But are we though? Are we?
Well, sometimes when I listen to some people on the air, I doubt that sometimes.
You'd love to think. Yeah. Listen, Niall, I'm not being rude, mate, but you know I don't get many times at home.
Okay, go for it, Jason.
So I'd rather go with him, mate, than have an argument with some
I get you, Jason. Thank you very much. Joanna, stay with me for a second because I want to go to Rosie as well. Rosie, hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Rosie, this case has me kind of caught, between a rock and a hard place, sitting on the fence somehow. I don't want to see anyone go to jail, but when somebody makes a bad decision and knows that they're breaking the law, I mean, what are you supposed to do?
Well, first thing I have to say is, to your the last person that was on the phone, I don't think you should really recollect people and call them species. We are humans.
Well, we are a species.
Look, I can get where everyone's come from, but here's the thing: my real mom wanted to abort me when I was about 30 weeks. And she made the decision not to. And
I'm glad she did. I'm glad you're here today.
No, she didn't. It's I don't know if you've ever heard of the butterfly effect.
Yes.
But thank God she didn't, because now I work as a nurse. I was adopted, and I look after patient after patient. And I think it's up to the person's choice if they decide to
I'm in the same situation as you, Rosie. I was born in a mother and baby home, and if it hadn't been available, probably my mother would have aborted me. And I was put up for adoption after about a year and a half. And I agree with the butterfly effect. I've affected people's lives. Now, mind you, if I was never born, nobody would ever miss me because I would have never been here in the first place. But I think I've had an effect in the world, and I'm sure you've had an effect in this world.
Yeah, like I just think it's just like I like, to be honest with you, if I'm really honest, I think like, you know, like guys, like obviously they, you know, I mean, you know, you can whatever sleep around, you can have, you know, sleep with women, whatever it is, everyone's up to their own. But at the end of the day, I just think like it is up to the person at the end of the day. Like, you know, it has to be a mutual decision, and I do agree on that. But I think it has to be in certain circumstances.
Well, I do agree men should have an input into that decision, but ultimately the decision lies with a woman because she's the one carrying the baby. But I mean, if she's in a relationship, obviously, you know, there should be a mutual decision between both because they both conceive the baby together. But in relation to, you know, a cut-off point, should there be a cut-off point when it comes to termination of pregnancy?
I personally think it's up to the individual. You know, I can't comment.
That's not answering the question, really, is it? You're doing what Jimmy did beforehand. So that's not really answering the question. We have to have laws. You know, there's laws for everything. And, you know, when we're talking about, say, a baby or an unborn baby over the age of 24 weeks, where they're capable of independent life, we have to respect life, whether you're religious or not. And I'm not religious. I don't even believe in God.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm massively religious.
No.
I do say my prayers at night and hope that I get up in the morning and I work and I look after my patients. But at the end of the day, I don't think like anyone should have a say on anyone's life. I think it's very judgmental, and I think it's actually very, very wrong. I do.
Well, we all have a say.
You know,
we do have a say because that's what being part of a society is. That we have a say on how we believe the morals of society work.
Yeah, and I know I have to say, like, I know there's a lot of people listening to this tonight, and I've only actually turned on your show tonight, but just because I'm home from work, and my real mom suffered really bad with postnatal depression, bipolar, and it wasn't the case of that she didn't want to abort me. It was just more of a case that she said, like, I just can't go through with this, and I completely understood that. Yeah. When I've got older and I've realised that, and like people,
I imagine how difficult that could have been. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think at the moment, like, I think mental health issues are so important. Like, I work as a nurse in Galway. I go through 4 patients, and I see it every day. Like, mental health is so important.
Absolutely.
And it's so, so important. And I think everyone should try and be positive. And if someone's going through if someone's going through something, you definitely have to, like, just try and, you know, big them up. And if it's a case that, like, they feel like they can't get through it, then fair enough. Go to counselling and see, okay, if it's a case that you feel like, you know, you want to go through that area, just say, okay, you know, foster, adopt. And that's what my mom did to me. She wasn't able to have me as a kid, but she made sure that I was brought to the life of this world to go on and be given away. And I just think, like, I think it's very unfair sometimes when people say different things, and I don't know, like...
I don't think it's unfair. There may be opinions that you'd be averse to or don't agree with, and I hear opinions every night that I don't agree with, but I think everybody is entitled to them, and that's why we live in a society where people have free will, free expression, except, well, I'd like to think we have anyway. Sometimes I doubt that. But, you know, I think when we come to abortion, it's one topic over the last 30 years that I've been on radio that divides people right down the middle. It's that one topic that really divides everybody because it's a moral issue, isn't it, I suppose? And apart from being a religious issue, apart from being a legal issue, it's a moral issue. And
yeah, but what like, if I say to my friends, I'm like, what, like, you know, my mom's Catholic, I'm not, and I'm like, what is religion anymore? It's just like,
well, I know,
as long as you're happy and you're happy,
I couldn't agree with you more.
That matters.
I couldn't agree with you more, but when I see, say, and I give you just a quick example because I'm running out of time rapidly, but when we spoke about the abortion referendum going back 5 years ago, and at the time coming up to the month before the referendum, obviously from a radio station point of view, we have to be impartial. So we would have to have people equally on both sides of the argument on the air, as we're doing tonight. And I remember this woman came on and she was a campaigner for pro-choice, and she kept referring to a pregnancy as a clump of cells. And I took a little bit of exception to it. And I said, you know, that's a bit, you know, insensitive. You know, I said, there are women out there who are pregnant. There are women who can't have babies and can't get pregnant. And I said, they would love those clump of cells. I said, for you to refer to them as a clump of cells, but that's all they are, she said. And she kind of dismissed it. And about a year and a half later, after the abortion referendum and after the success of the abortion referendum for many people, I saw her Facebook page, and I'm not going to say who she is, but she had put a picture of her 12-week scan.
Mm-hmm.
And she referred to her scan as "my new baby is coming into the world." And I said, see how attitudes change very quickly depending on your circumstances. So what I'm saying to you is everybody's different. We all think differently. But there has to be a point in all of our, I mean, I'm assuming we all have some sort of morals where we say that's a baby that's capable of independent life and should have consideration in law. Now, the Supreme Court has decided the unborn child doesn't have rights as a person. But in saying that, should we morally as society decide that that person within a woman or inside a woman after 24 weeks when they're capable of independent life should have some rights?
I think everyone has rights in this life, and to be honest with you, I think life has gone so crazy in the last couple of months, and that's my honest opinion. Like, everyone's just suffering through COVID. I've seen it in the hospitals, like COVID's rising again, and I see now, like, even like you can't even write on a document. It's like he, she, they, whatever it is, and it's like that's life. Like, it's just like life is just moving on very forward from all of this. Like, I'm only 38, and I'm like, I see it every day, and I'm like, I see it in hospitals, I see it in nursing homes, and I'm like, you know what, life is just. But I think everyone should have. I know everyone's opinionated. Okay, I know I'm quite, young, but I've gone through a lot in my life. Seen my mom commit suicide. I've seen my.
I'm sorry to hear that, by the way. My condolences.
Cancer. Yeah, like she died because she couldn't handle the fact that she did adopt me. But I'm like, I think people in this right of life should have their own opinion, and they should just, being really honest with you, they have to keep it to themselves. I'm like, no one's perfect in this life. We've all done wrong. I
agree, and every case is different, and every case should be looked at with compassion.
Come on, like.
But no, I'm trying to just hammer down an answer to this question, right? And I've asked everyone the same question. So currently in Ireland at the moment, the limit for termination of pregnancy is 12 weeks, or up to 22 weeks, by the way, depending on if your mother's life is in danger or it's a fatal fetal abnormality. Do you believe that we should? Do you believe we should remove those time limits? Do you believe there should be no time limit?
Yeah. And if someone's life is in danger, then that's fair enough.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. If a woman's life is in danger, I can tell you now, if it was my wife and she was pregnant and the doctor said to me, it's either your wife or the baby, I'd be saying my wife. And I absolutely understand that. But what I'm saying but here's the thing, I'm not asking you that. What I'm asking you is, because the majority, 97%, I think, of abortions are not because a woman's life is in danger or because it's a fatal fetal abnormality or because it's a rape, sadly, or one of those very rare cases. But it's because it's just not the right time in their life to have a baby. So do you believe there should be a cut-off point? Should there be a law to say you cannot have a termination?
Yeah, there should be a cut-off point. But then again,
where is
I'm
that?
not being funny. No,
is that 24 weeks?
Yeah, and I'm not being funny, and I don't mean this in a derogative way, but like, if you're sleeping with someone, wear protection. If you don't want to have a child,
I couldn't agree with you more. We wouldn't be having this argument otherwise.
I'm not derogative, and I'm not rude.
No, I get you.
24-hour shift.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, if you don't want to have a child, then you know what? Keep your bloody legs closed and
keep it in your pants. Yeah,
yeah, just keep it in your pants and say, well, I don't want to, like, I know you want to have a night out, or you might have a few drinks in Coppers or a few drinks in
I never understood, Rosie, I never understand. It was an accident. I don't know how, what did you fall on top of her?
Everything has a repercussion in life. Everything has a repercussion.
Yeah, if you don't want to have a baby, use contraception. Now, don't get me wrong, contraception can fail sometimes, but that's rare. But, don't just use contraception. Listen, Rosie, thank you very much indeed, and I appreciate you coming on the air, and I appreciate your views.
Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan on the home of the 80s and 90s.
Ireland's classic hits radio.
Let me go back to what we're talking about, which is, I believe, much more important. Fiona, how are you doing?
Good evening, Niall. I'm good.
Good. Now, Fiona, getting back to the original conversation was about this case in the UK. So the woman went to jail for performing an abortion at 34 weeks. And obviously without medical care and attention. So the baby died. And she went to jail because she knew what she was doing. She even Googled it beforehand to see was it illegal. And it told her it was. And she still went ahead and did it. Should she have gone to jail?
She did commit a crime.
She did. Under the law?
By law. Under the law. I personally think, and I have to commend a few of those gentlemen there a while ago. Mm-hmm. I do agree with them on the subject. It's a woman's choice. Mm-hmm. it's the woman is committing the crime. If the husband wants to do it or he doesn't want to do it, or the partner, he still will not be judged. He still will not be jailed, but the woman will.
But that's because he's not carrying the baby.
Outside of that, she has a lifelong sentence of guilt already, on top of being. So a crime is a crime. So unfortunately, if women choose to go down this road, it's a crime. As for the cut-off point, I think the cut-off point is the morning after pill. End of story. Because we all know what we've did the night before. So as you're asking for a cut-off point, that's your cut-off point. Anything after that should have never been left into this country. Never. Because otherwise, you can go and you can travel. But it's also giving the woman time to think. Because obviously, any woman that's being put into this situation, I can only imagine what way that woman's head is. To be put in that situation, to begin with, that even is thinking about doing something like this. So I genuinely think it should have never been left into this country.
Abortion, you're talking about.
And the cut-off point, yes, and the cut-off point is the morning after pill.
And I would say, and by the way, can I...
The night before,
Fiona, Fiona, we all know what we're up to. You know what I mean? It's not a surprise.
There you go.
It's not a surprise.
It's not a surprise.
No. So, but there are the odd cases where people will be taking, say, using contraception, and it may fail. And they have no idea they're pregnant until they miss their first period, for example, or 4 or 5 weeks later, whatever it happens to be. The morning after pill is not much used in those circumstances. So that's why abortion was brought in for 12 weeks, to allow 3 months for a woman to make that decision. Do you believe that it's immoral? I know you talked about the law a minute ago because it is illegal also as well. But do you think it's immoral to have an abortion after 24 weeks?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I know a child who survived after that time.
I know twins who survived to 23 weeks.
You know? Mm-hmm. Do you know?
Yeah.
And a child is a blessing.
Oh, it is.
And I know people's circumstances. We can't judge anyone. I'm not here to judge anyone. But this is my personal opinion. I just think we are, nowadays, we're going along with, look, we better move with the times. What times? Whose times? They're certainly not my times. Because I think there's a lot of evil times out there. And I know you agree with me in a lot of things now. And I know a lot of people out there do agree with what's going on out there at the moment. It's pure evil, that's all I'm saying. Pure evil everywhere. Oh, look, we got away with 12 weeks. Let's push it out to another 30 weeks. Let's be fair here now. Pure evil. So I don't want to go along with anyone's times who's moving along with the times. Or Mr. Society either. I don't want to go along with Mr. Society because I think he'll take me to hell.
Can I ask you, in the referendum for abortion or the termination of pregnancy, did you vote no?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you consider yourself pro-life?
I'm not here to judge no one.
No, I know. I'm not suggesting you are.
I wouldn't put my feet in anyone's shoes, or no one could put their feet in mine. But it's not. Look, I'm a Catholic, and I consider myself a Catholic. Mm-hmm. And everyone is out there to break laws, as you might call them, but we commit sins, okay? And we have to suffer the consequences. So that's where I bring it back to a woman. It's her decision. The crime is hers. The sin is hers. But bringing it into this country, huge mistake. Huge.
Okay, well, stay there for a second, Fiona. Let me go to Cliff as well.
Okay.
Cliff, hi, how are you?
All right, Niall, how are you doing?
Good. Cliff, original question again. Should the woman have gone to jail?
Yeah, in my opinion, yeah, she should have.
Okay, because she broke the law.
Yeah, she broke the law. And
okay.
To me, that's the baby. She took a baby's life.
Okay. But do you consider yourself to be pro-choice?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you voted yes in the referendum?
I can't remember. Did I even vote now? When was it?
It was 5 years ago. 5 years ago. I know, I can't remember what I was doing 5 days ago. Don't mind 5 years ago, but yeah, it was 5 years ago, Cliff. Anyway, so...
Definitely pro-choice, yeah.
So where do you... At the moment, the legislation in Ireland is a 3-day cooling off period, 12-week cut-off point, up to 22 weeks with, consultation of a doctor if a woman's life is in danger, etc., etc., etc. Where do you think the cut-off point should be? Is, as the UK and many other countries, would be 24 weeks. Is that a fair cut-off point, or is 12 weeks a fair cut-off point?
I think it should be, in my opinion, it should be less. It should be 20 weeks. We had our own babies. The 20-week scan, I'd probably not, you were having your scans for your kids now, it's probably different. The 20-week scan is the anatomy scan.
That's right.
Where it's the big scan, like they're checking the brain, all the organs, everything. And then it might be the size of an apple, the child, but it's still a child.
Yes, it's still a capable. Well, at 23 weeks outside the womb, a baby can survive. Now, obviously, with medical care and attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine they've probably survived even earlier because.
No, 23 weeks, I think, is the limit. Below that, you would have brain damage and all sorts of things. So, so 23 weeks, I think, is the limit. I don't think any child has ever successfully been born or survived under 23 weeks.
Okay. Well, we were up in the ICU, in the NIC ICU in the Coombe, and we saw a lot of babies coming in very early, 25, 26.
Yep.
Tiny babies, like our own tiny little babies.
Yeah.
They were told the chances were very slim. And these babies survived.
Yeah.
You know, and
in an incubator.
And those mothers would have been, and the fathers were obviously at their wits' end and devastated. They're in every day with the children as we were with ours. And, you know, some of them didn't survive, or one of ours didn't survive. And that's.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, by the way.
No, he lived outside. He lived for 6 weeks after being born when they said there was a chance of 50-50.
Yeah.
But. His twin brother's still with us, and his younger brother since then. But
okay, that must have been hard. That must have been heartbreaking for you and your partner.
Yeah, it's still hard, yeah. But yeah, it was very hard. And just, I know it's going off topic, is small, but you see we're from Cork and we were up in the Coombe. We hadn't been up in that hospital, and it's a big maternity hospital.
It is, and
you see a lot of women and same in Cork, not just saying it's Dublin thing, all around the country, and their partners. And they're out there having the fags, and they're just not bothering the world to no side, and they're heavily pregnant.
Yeah.
And we're just in our wits' end then trying to make sure my missus, I've picked her up from the floor with the news we were getting week after week from doctors. But
I can imagine.
It just goes down to the individual person, because she said their own priorities. What do they value as a life? You know, it's unfortunate. Some of them will see this as not a life. When is it going to stop? Are they going to say, "Oh, the baby, we don't like the colour of the eyes it's going to have. We don't like how tall it's going to be. We're going to kill it for that reason." You know, when is it going to stop? Just because, the world is going. The person on before you, Fiona, she's saying that the world is going into a bad place in the future. I believe for my kids and grandkids. So this is one of the last things we have a chance to do something about. Just
okay, but see now. Although you agree, and by the way, once again, condolences to you. That must have been a terrible time and a heartbreaking time for you and your partner. It must have been a very difficult time. But even at that, you do think that it's a woman's choice, say up to 20 weeks. Whereas Fiona would be the other end of the scale. She doesn't believe at all in abortion. She believes it's a bad thing. That if you get pregnant, take the morning after pill. You shouldn't be getting to that point. Okay. You know.
I'm not saying I'm perfect.
No, I know. Didn't say
far from it, Niall. Far from it. But I am saying the age I am now and what I know now, and if I can advise anybody out there, I would say try everything else before you commit that. I would say seek help, go speak to somebody. There's always somebody out there that will help in some way, shape or form. But that girl will never be the same. Never be the same. It's a baby. Down the line, it doesn't matter. She'll hold a niece, she'll hold a nephew. It doesn't matter. It'll hit her every time in her life. So, and that's why I say she's the person committing the crime. She's the one that's going to be judged, we'd say.
Should she have been let out of jail? The campaigners got her out.
Her head was not in a good place. Her head was not in a good place.
But that's neither here
to
nor there.
be in that place. And I don't know her story. I really have never read the story. I don't know.
Well, the story I could tell you now is a lot more complicated than the paper makes out. When I say a lot more complicated, There's a story there. Obviously, it has been suggested that it wasn't her partner's baby, and there was all sorts of complications. I'm not going to get into all that on the air.
Okay, well, you know yourself, Niall. I think the judge knows as well if she deserves to be put away. Let's be fair.
Well, the first judge did put her away and put her away for 26 weeks. But now the Court of Appeal, because of campaigners in the UK, has let her back out of jail after only 20 days.
So now that's going to give everyone the right to do it to their children as well. Do you understand? Where do you stop?
Cliff, should she, on appeal, Cliff, should she be let out of jail?
Stop.
Well, hang on, should she be let out?
No, she shouldn't. She should be left serve her time.
Cliff, should she be let out of jail, Cliff?
I do think she should have served the time, just to...
Yeah.
You can't let it, you're starting a precedent if you let her out and say this is okay.
If you open that box, you're opening it for everybody.
Well, the box is now open officially. Because that case will now be used as a landmark case in the UK, where I can tell you now nobody else will be prosecuted with that crime.
But look, they brought in abortion on a health reason as well, some woman on a health reason and a religious reasons and something else, and it wasn't even someone that lived in this country, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
So, let's be fair here now. I'm Irish, I'm very offended here, because you're afraid to open your mouth in case someone says, listen to that racist, whatever they may call me. I'm just a good living person. And I just want to be a good living person. And I certainly don't want the world that my grandchildren are coming into. I certainly don't want it. Not what I'm seeing around the place. Where does it stop, Niall? Where does it stop?
Do you agree, Fiona, with abortion under any circumstances? Say, for example, if a woman's life is in danger.
Of course. Cliff
does, obviously, yeah.
That goes without saying.
I was born under them circumstances. My mother, she went through a very, very difficult one in which she was told I had passed away. And because she was hemorrhaging, they only had 2 minutes to get me out, emergency section, and then I happened to breathe when I came out. So no one knows.
No, but I'm only asking you the question. Do you believe that if a woman's life is in danger, that she should be allowed to have a termination?
Oh, that's definitely her and her husband's decision.
Okay, well that's a fair answer.
That's a
that's the only answer I need.
There's reason there. I'm not here to judge.
Yeah, okay, and that's a fair answer.
And I'm saying this out loud to myself as well, because I would say to anybody else, don't do it unless you really know you're going to be strong enough in the world to accept what you've done.
I get that.
If I went down there and committed murder to somebody else, that I could live with myself.
We'll stay there for a second. Let me just go to John as well, finally on this, because I want to wrap this up. John, How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. And yourself?
So, John, you've been monitoring this case, I'm sure. And
yeah.
So she was put in jail. She was put in jail last month. Some people believe not for long enough, but she was put in jail, and she was let out this month. Put in jail by a male judge, let out by a female judge.
Well, I agree with the callers that said she should have been left inside. A crime has been committed. No, it looks like the crime has been rewarded. And as you said, there's no precedent set now there. This will be used by other people. If somebody finds themselves in that situation, they will have a team of lawyers and they will use this as a template to going forward on that. Yeah. It's obviously as the nose on everyone's face that's listening to this and contributing to this show tonight, that there are people in this country and they want abortion right up to birth. And then the baby will be born and it will get no resuscitation whatsoever. It will be put on a shelf and left to fucking starve to death and die. And then they will incinerate it then. That's the brutality of it. Just the same as the brutality when a woman finds herself pregnant. As you said, there's a myriad of contraception out there. Sometimes they know there might be a problem with it. But I always will never shy away from using the word murder, genocide, Holocaust. Right?
Well, no, I think you're stretching it a bit now when you're going into the Holocaust. You're talking about the death of 6 million Jews. But John, to be fair, I understand people who come from a pro-life point of view use the word murder, and I accept that they use the word murder, and I accept the reason they use that. People from pro-choice don't use that word, obviously, because they don't morally think the same way as you do, and we're not all obliged by law to have the same morals. So let's talk about the law. And the law currently at the moment, whether you like it or not, is that the Irish people democratically voted, those who decided to vote on the day, democratically voted 67%, which is pretty much a landslide as far as referendums go, to allow women to have abortions.
You had many a person on after that. And
that's their own fault. I understand. That's their own fault,
They
John.
didn't inform themselves. You only did.
John, but that's what democracy. Yeah, but John, that's what democracy is all about. People have an obligation
that's
to.
What stupidity is all about.
Well, I could agree with. Yes, I agree with you. But people have an obligation when there's a referendum to inform themselves.
There was never a more important or ever will be referendum in this country again. This referendum, outside of all other referendums, about neutrality, this, that, whatever, this was about deciding who decides who can live and who should be put to death. Simple as that. And if I had the power, every politician that promoted this, every person that voted for the destruction of the unborn child, who had no say in its destruction, will be behind bars. They're murderers, every one of them.
Well, okay, well, that's your view, and I take it it's a pro-life view, and I accept your view, just like I've accepted everybody else's view on the air tonight. But, John, getting back to this particular decision, this now gives campaigners, or paves the way for campaigners both in the UK and Ireland, to call for a decriminalisation of abortion. In other words, there will be no criminal aspect to abortion at all. And I'm assuming that deeply disappoints you.
Oh, look, I mean, I said it to you before on the air, right? Since 2018, I canvassed my ass off for years before that, right up to the referendum. And when that came in, there was people in my group, women, and I'm convinced of it. They were so stressed out over the result because they had worked so hard. There was 2 of them got cancer. And I'm convinced it was the stress of what happened and the result of the referendum. My mental health will never be right over this on this topic.
Okay.
The minute I hear any abortion, the minute I see me Hall Martin stand up in the door of a rattler, I'm looking at an abortionist. I have to switch the channel straight away.
Well, hang on. Let me just go back to Cliff if I can, who's pro-choice. And does agree with it in certain circumstances. You've heard how John objects to abortion under all circumstances, Cliff. You agree with it under all circumstances as long as it's within those time limits?
I agree in a time limit. I agree it's the woman's choice. And
here we go again. Yeah.
Okay, let him speak, John. Sorry, go ahead, Cliff.
That have had abortions, young women, and they were the wrong partner, they were one-night stand, whatever. They had to make that choice, and they regret that choice, and I know that for a fact. They regret that choice now, but they had to make the choice at the time. Their choice, not my choice, yours. It's their choice. And it is, you can say it's killing the child, but if it's before 12 weeks, or before 20 weeks, or whatever weeks, it's not a fully viable child at that
It's the life. If that child is left go on unimpeded, that child will come out of the womb perfect, walking around. And another thing that's missing.
Hang on. Let Cliff finish. I've let you speak, John. Let Cliff finish. To the point John made, if for example, at 12 weeks the child was able to continue with the pregnancy, well, that child would continue to live and be born. That's the point he's making.
Well, I do the other side of it. Then I'm contradicting myself, but I have friends that tried IVF several times and would love to have a child. They'd love if that child was handed to them from that person. They'd love it, and they don't have children, and their life is not the same.
They'd be a queue a mile long.
I get that. But this country, again, everything's backwards. You have to go to Asia or go to somewhere else to adopt a child because this country is so backwards in trying to get a child.
And there's one final point, Niall, there, and I brought it up at a meeting where the National Women's Council of Ireland were here on Cork, right, before the referendum, and they were on about women's rights, and I stood up in the room and I blasted the room out of it, and I said to them, 1 second now here, right, you call yourself the National Women's Council of Ireland, so therefore you're supposed to represent all women. Is that right? Oh, they said yes. Well, I said, grand. What about the female unborn child inside in the womb? Right? If left unimpeded
But John,
again,
John, I get the point you're making morally, but the Supreme Court of Ireland decided, and this is the court, by the way, that you democratically voted for when you go vote for a government. So the Supreme Court of Ireland decided that the unborn child does have no rights.
But I mean, that doesn't make it morally right.
It doesn't make it morally right, but it makes it legally right.
Well, it'll never
So
be morally right.
So the law doesn't have to consider the unborn child. It doesn't have to consider it.
This thing about choice, right? If I decided no, right, for sake of argument, which I'm not going to do because I wouldn't do a second in jail for any of the scumbags, but if I picked a politician that was pro, that I believed was instrumental in this, and I'd done them harm, and I'd be standing in front of a judge, can I then say to the judge, well, I'll be honest with you, look, I got so upset over this, my mental health was on the floor, and I used my body, and I took my choice to do harm to
No,
this
you can't, because
politician.
that's illegal, because they're a person, and they're a living person, and they have rights.
But
No,
you see,
no, John, no, hang on. You cannot harm another person because they have rights and they have a right not to be harmed by you.
people have been harmed already.
Hang on, no, John. You're legally wrong. You may be morally right, but you're legally wrong. Because if you harm a person, you harm me, or you harm Jane, or you harm a politician, you're harming a person that has rights in this country. They're part of the population. An unborn child, whether you like it or not,
is part of the population.
No, it's not.
It is.
Legally, it's not, John. And it's not counted.
Well, hang on a
It
second.
doesn't have legal. An unborn child has no legal right.
So
None.
therefore, when a woman goes in to a doctor, and she's pregnant, he only treats the mother. He doesn't treat the unborn child.
No, of course he does, because he has a moral obligation to protect and the health of the woman, and also because the woman wants them to protect the health of the child as well, or the unborn child. But that doesn't mean the doctor has a legal obligation to do it. The child, the unborn child, inside the womb, still connected by an umbilical cord, has no legal right in law.
But that's disgusting. It's the same as
Well, you might think it's disgusting, but I'm not a Supreme Court judge. I didn't decide that. They did.
Sure, I mean, if that's the case, the guys in Nuremberg should never have been hung. They were only following orders.
Okay. Well, listen, on that note, Cliff, thank you very much indeed. And again, Cliff, very sorry to hear your story, by the way, and I do give my condolences to you and your partner on the loss of your young child. And also, Fiona, thank you very much indeed. John, thank you very much indeed. It's good to hear everybody's opinion, isn't it?
Real people, real opinions.
Real Talk Radio, the multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.